Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanie and I'm the blogger behind simplelivingmama.com. And today's video is going to be sort of an extension of a previous video that I did. We are going to be talking about living books for elementary grades. Now, in the last video I did about living books, we talked about wonderful living books for preschoolers and kindergartners. And now we're moving on up into, I would say about 1st through 5th, 6th grade. And I'm going to share with you some of my favorites. I have a book stack over here just to actually show you some of my favorites. And then I have a huge blog post that will be linked up in the cards and down below with a list of 100 plus amazing living books for elementary grades. And these are books that I would just recommend either using as read alouds with your kids or just as personal readers for your kids that are already reading. They're classic stories that have withstood time. They have been enjoyed by generations. So, you know, they're just wonderful stories. And I was actually reading a meme on Facebook the other day, and I can't remember the exact statistics, but it talked about how many people stop reading books after they graduate from high school, how many people stop reading books after they graduate from college, they never read a book again, families that never read books together. And the numbers were pretty huge, and it sort of made me think about how, I sometimes forget how different our family is because I have books all over my house, and a lot of the people that I know have books all over their houses, and you know, we like to go to the library, and I'm personally always reading, so yeah, I just kind of forget that. And I think that, you know, the earlier that we can start introducing our children to books and having them read and enjoying stories, the more we are setting them up to be lifelong readers. And this is the thing that I tell my kids, especially when we're doing all the hard work of learning how to read with my 6 and 7-year-olds. I say, once you know how to read, you can learn anything. Like, my oldest son is really into technology and creating like his own video games and stuff, and he has taught himself how to do so many things. But how did he teach himself? By doing a lot of reading, reading what other people have done and all of that stuff. So reading is definitely a wonderful gift. So with that being said, we're going to talk about living books for the elementary students. If this is the first time you've ever watched one of my videos on living books, living book is a term that's thrown around in the Charlotte Mason homeschool community. It's just books that you really get into. If you've read a story where you feel like you've been transported to that time period, or you know, you feel like you're right there with the characters, you are likely reading a living book. And we can learn so much about a time period, or about a certain person's faith, or we can learn wonderful morals and all of that kind of stuff from living books. So these books that I have here in my book stack are in no particular order. I simply just pulled them off of my shelf. This is definitely not our full living book library. Like I said, I just grabbed some off of the shelf that we really enjoy. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So you're going to see a common theme here, Roald Dahl. And that is because my kids love his stories. And the thing is, you know, these are definitely not based on real life or anything like that. But there's always a great moral to the story involved with all of his books. And they're really just fun to read. So the first one that I have here is James and the Giant Peach. And most of these books were bought from thriftbooks.com. I love finding books there. So James and the Giant Peach is just a fun book that I'm having my oldest son read because he loves Roald Dahl. So that's the first one on the list. The next one is Matilda. My daughter blew through this book probably about a month or so ago. She absolutely loved it. I remember watching the movie Matilda when I was a little girl, and it was one of my favorites. So she really, really enjoyed Matilda. And the last book that she just finished reading, I don't have it here with me because it's probably in her room still, was Pippi Longstocking. That's another one that's on our list, and she loved that one also. Okay, so this book is definitely beat up here, and it's missing its dust jacket, but it is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This was one of the very first books that I bought when I became a mom for my kids, and it's probably one of the very first books that I read aloud, like chapter books that I read aloud to the kids, and they love this one. We read the book, we watched the movie, and they have rewatched the movie several times. And I'm talking about the original movie, not the newer one. So this is definitely one of our all-time favorite books. All right, another favorite author is E.B. White. I got this one from thriftbooks.com as well. I have not actually read this one yet, but it is on our shelf, and it is one that I'm planning on reading aloud this year. Stuart Little. I have a boy, he's almost 7 now, 6-year-old. He loves stories about animals, so I think he's really gonna enjoy this one. The Trumpet of the Swan is one that I don't have in actual book form, but we have listened to it on audiobook, and that's another great one. Okay, Charlotte's Web. I think this was the second chapter book I read aloud to my kids. And this is another favorite story. I can remember being in 2nd grade and my teacher reading this book aloud to us. And it is by far one of the best living books for elementary grades. Highly recommend Charlotte's Web. Okay, this is not a chapter book, but I went ahead and pulled it off of my shelf because it is one of our favorites, Jumanji. I love this story. It just sucks you in, and it is such a fantastical story. But we really, really love this book too. And here we go. This is the original 30th anniversary edition. This was a gift to us. Absolutely love it. Another one I got from Thrift Books. Sometimes you will find that the books you get from thriftbooks.com do not come with the dust jackets, but that's okay for us. This is James Herriot's Treasury for Children. I've talked about this book before, I think. It's been in our morning basket a few times. Wonderful, wonderful stories about animals. The guy is a veterinarian, and he goes out and he visits different places, and you get to hear these really lovely stories about all of these different animals. So that's another one that I highly recommend. All right, this one was one of our favorites, definitely, the Boxcar Children. Now, I've only read the first one to the kids. This was one, it can be very difficult when you have a large group of kids, and I have found, especially for my family at least, the boys have a harder time engaging in the read alouds than my daughters do. This book did not disappoint. This book had my oldest son and my middle son asking me to continue reading it. They wanted to find out what happened. It was really, I loved reading this book to the kids because it wasn't a chore. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's read aloud time. How am I gonna get the kids to sit still and listen? But this one was definitely a hit in our house. So the Boxcar Children needs to be on your list. All right, now I love these editions. These are collector's editions from Barnes & Noble, and I'm kind of trying to start a little collection of them. But this one is the Blue Fairy book, and it is one that I am very slowly reading to the kids. This is recommended by Ambleside Online, I believe, for year 1. And it just has several different stories in it. Beauty and the Beast, Why the Sea is Salt, and all sorts of different ones. Puss in Boots, Snow White and Rose Red. Let me see if I can show you I mean, it's not like beautifully illustrated or anything, but it does have some illustrations. There's Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp. Ooh, I kind of want to read that one. Why the Sea is Salt. Okay, see if I can. Just has some simple illustrations. That looks crazy, doesn't it? But these editions, many of them, unless they're really big books, are only $10 at barnesandnoble.com, and they're just so pretty. Love those. And the next one that I have is The Wind in the Willows. So I tried to read this book aloud to the kids, and it is one that is recommended by all sorts of people in the Charlotte Mason community. We had a hard time with this one, and I think it's just the language of it, the way that it's written. I thought it would be a hit because it's about animals. And like I said, I have a son that loves stories about animals, but we didn't even really get finished with this one. But I do have the collector's edition that I wanted to show you because it is really pretty, and it is on many living book lists, and it may be fun for your family. I may try it again when the kids are a little bit older. Show you some of the illustrations. This one has color illustrations, and they have all sorts of different ones. I want to get the A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. That one is only $7.95 right now, I think. And I saw Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, The Jungle Book, all kinds. And I just think they're so beautiful, and they look so lovely on a shelf. Okay, the next book I'm going to share is kind of controversial. I can remember when this book series came out when I was a kid, and everybody was like, oh, don't let your kids read this because it's got witchcraft in it and all of that stuff. So it's totally a personal preference and what's okay with you and your family. But we cannot deny that Harry Potter has captured the imaginations of so many children, and it's a staple. So I did include it in our book list. My kids have seen the movies. I got the books for them to have them start out reading, and they haven't really picked them up yet. So I thought maybe we would start out by reading aloud the first one and see how that goes, and maybe that would set them off to reading the others. I'm not sure, but whatever the case, got this one off thriftbooks.com, pretty cheap. And we are going to give it a try, and it is definitely a classic, I would say. Okay, and the last one that I've got over here in my stack is also missing its dust jackets, but it is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Book 2 in the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. We cannot deny that these books are wonderful living books for our children. We're taken back to a wonderful place in time with so much imagination, so wonderful, wonderful stories. And I'm planning on reading this one aloud to the kids this year as well. So that's all the books that I pulled off of my shelf. Like I said, I have a huge book list, and I'll have that linked up in the cards and down below in the description box if you want to go check that out, of 100+ books for your first grader to sixth grader, either as read alouds or personal readers. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel because we'd love to have you hanging around, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.